Hey teachers! So if you are teaching remotely right now, virtual whiteboards can be extremely helpful. So in this video, I want to walk you through how to use Whiteboard.Chat, which is a wonderful virtual whiteboard that you can start using with your students today. A few weeks ago, I released another video here on this channel all about using Google Jamboard, which is another type of virtual whiteboard. I have linked that video in the description if you want to check it out. But after I released that video, one of our viewers left a comment asking if we could share some information about using Whiteboard.Chat. So thank you to that viewer. And if you ever have ideas for videos, make sure to let us know in the comments. That's how we get a lot of our ideas. But I've spent the past couple weeks reviewing Whiteboard.Chat, testing it, using it for different purposes with online teaching, and I've basically come to the conclusion that this virtual whiteboard is like Google Jamboard 2.0. It has way more features and way more tools that you can use to teach your students content in real time, watch how they respond, which is especially great for math because they can show their work and you can interact with them. It's also a great way for students to collaborate with each other on projects and assignments. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and jump on my computer. I'm going to show you all of these great tools and features right now. So when you go to Whiteboard.Chat, this is the page that you are going to see, and to get started, all you're going to do is click on Start Drawing and then Start Teaching. Now, the great thing about Whiteboard.Chat is you and your students do not need to have an account to use it, but I do recommend that you as the teacher create an account, because when you have an account, it's going to save all of the whiteboards that you create and you'll be able to manage them, make copies of them, share them with students. So I think it's great for the teacher to have an account, but it's optional for the students. And once again, if you create an account, it's absolutely free. So what I'm going to do is I am going to walk through all of the different functions and settings that we have all around here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is name your board, and I'm just going to call this sample since we're just walking through the tools and features. Now let's check out some of the things over here. The first one is this snowflake, and basically this is going to freeze student screens and it is going to create a snowstorm for approximately 10 seconds. Just a fun little thing that you can do with students. The next one is something that you're going to use quite often, and this is the palette. The first thing you can do with this is you can change the color by using this here. And what I think you're really going to like is this menu here that's going to let you drag in all kinds of images and manipulatives. You can click the drop-down menu here and you can see all of the different options, but I'm going to walk through real quick and show you some of my favorite that I think you will want to use the most. And the one that I use the most is manipulatives. And here you'll see you've got base 10 blocks, there's rulers, protractors, shapes, 10 frames. There are some diagrams that you can use for place value and when you're teaching different math strategies. And another one that I use a lot, there's number lines there, but what I wanted to show you that I really like is we've also got fraction strips here. So all kinds of really great math manipulatives that your students can use as they're learning different types of math skills. Now I'm going to go ahead and clear my board. To do that, I'm just going to click the X and then click yes. Now occasionally you will find, this is probably the one negative thing that I have found about Whiteboard.Chat, is sometimes things don't take straight away. So you'll see that I cleared my board, but those manipulatives were still there. Sometimes if you click the refresh button, then it will do whatever you've just asked the board to do. So if you've requested something to be done, like you want to clear it and it doesn't happen straight away, click refresh. This also goes for your students. If your students aren't seeing on their board what you have on yours, just tell them to click the refresh button on their board and then it should change to whatever you have on your board. That's probably the one downside that I found. But let's real quick go through some of the other tools that you have here. Here's 3D shapes for teaching geometry. Another one I like is the currency. This is great if you're working with younger students and you want them counting and sorting money. And if you are not from the United States, they've got lots of different currencies here, so you can utilize those as well. There's also just some emojis and stickers that you can use, and I also wanted to show you the thinking maps, and these are going to be graphic organizers. So for example, I can put a Venn diagram in here and have my students interact with that. There's some flow charts and all kinds of things that your students can use. All right. The next one is the hand tool. If your students have a question, they can raise their hand, and this is going to let you know that students have their hands raised. Then we have the timer, and this is if you have your students working on an activity, but maybe you want to give them 3 minutes to experiment with something to see if they can find the answer, you can set a timer. And whenever you're creating a new board, I definitely recommend that you click on the cog icon and check your settings. Your settings are going to look different for every board that you create based on what you're teaching, who the students are that are going to look at it. But up here at the top, you can decide what the default tool is. So if you want the brush tool to be what automatically comes up as soon as students log in, this is great if you have an activity where you want them drawing. The move and resize is great to start with if you're going to be having a drag and drop activity, but you can decide what the default option will be. Keep in mind that students can switch back and forth between any of these at any time. This is just telling us what they're going to start with when they open their board. You can also change the size. I usually just keep it at default. And then make sure you check out some of these other options here. For example, you may want to make the toolbar, this toolbar here that your students see, you may want to make it a little more simple, so you could click on that to simplify it. But make sure you read through all of these options. I will show you what student view looks like a little later in this video. Now up here we also have some additional options. We can create a poll, which I'll show you what that looks like when we're checking out student view. You can do a video chat with your students by clicking this, so then you can teach them live. And then this is what you're going to do to share the board with your students, which we'll go over that in a little bit as well. Now down here, you can change your name. I have Mrs. Vestal typed in. You can just leave it as what comes up, or you can change your name. This is another place where you can change your pen color. So if I want my pen color to be something different, I can click there and change it. Keep in mind that whatever your pen color is, it's going to be the same on the outside as well. And over here, you've also got some options. If you click on where it says toggle dashboard pen, it will go, let me click on the pen. It will go from being a solid line to a dashed line. You can see if I click on it again, it will go back to a solid line. I can drag this to make my lines bigger. Same thing with your text. You can increase your text size here as well. Let's go ahead and clear the board out. Now, let's go ahead and go through the toolbar over here. There are so many different things that you can use. I showed you how to use the refresh. The next one is manage boards. Remember I told you that if you have created an account, it's going to keep track of all your boards for you, so you can see the boards that I have here. Now, anything with a plus sign next to it, that means that you've also assigned this board to students. And the great thing is when you assign it to students, it creates a new board for each and every student. So when I click the plus sign, it creates a drop-down menu. Now, I only had one student interact with this board, but if I had assigned it to multiple students, I would see all of their boards listed, so I could click on theirs and see exactly how they responded to the content, what answers they put in, etc. Now next we have the grids. This is very helpful for math. For example, I can do this. They can also work on handwriting, which I think is a little funny because their handwriting is not going to look the same when they're in here, but you can just see there's all kinds of backgrounds that they can change it to, and anytime you want it to go back to white, just click on clear grid. Clicking on the home is going to take you back to the Whiteboard.Chat homepage. I've showed you how clear works. The download icon, this is going to allow you to download your boards as a PDF. This is great if you have a student who's absent. You can send them the PDF copy and then they can still review the content even if they were absent that day. This is Manage Book, and you're going to see down here at the bottom, right now we just have one page. I can add in another page just by clicking the arrow, but as you add more pages, it's called creating your book. So you can click on Manage Book and then it will allow you to send a copy. It will allow you to delete pages or clear pages, but there's some different things that you can do there. I just recommend that you kind of play with these different things and see what you can do. The pause button, I will show you how to work in just a second. You can actually animate some of the content that you put on here, and so this is how you will play and stop the animations. This is Add Media, and this is going to allow you to add media from your webcam or add audio. So if you want to give audio instructions, you can click on Add Webcam Audio. You'll record the audio directly through your webcam microphone, and then it will embed the audio on the board for you. So that's a great way to leave instructions. Here you have Move and Resize, and let me show you a little bit what that means. Let me add in a manipulative. So we'll use some base 10 blocks. Now, if you notice, it automatically goes to the drawing. So when I clicked on the blocks, I couldn't move them. This is the one thing that I kind of got confused about when I started using Whiteboard.Chat. If you want to move it or resize it, you have to click on Move and Resize first, and then click on what it is that you want to move and resize. Now, if you just want to select it, you have to click on Select first and then click on the shape. And we'll get into the animations and stuff in just a second. But just so you know, keep in mind that if you want to move or if you want to select, you have to click on these buttons first. That's one thing that I always get confused with when I'm working in this. Now, this is something that you're probably going to use the most. These are your tools, and there's all kinds of things that you can add to your board. Lines, arrows, shapes. There's different shapes that you can put in. You can add sticky notes. The infinite cloner is very helpful. So basically, I can click on anything and then just drag it, and it will allow me to create as many as I want without having to keep copying and pasting. So that can save a lot of time. One thing I want you to notice is there's rich text and then there's a text box. Rich text is best if you have a lot of text. So if you're typing a paragraph, I would definitely go that route. If it's something a little more simplified, I would go the text box route. Add link. This will allow you to embed a link on the board to a website. So if there's a website that you want your students to go to, you can just add the link and students can click on that and go directly there. I love the dice tool for games and probability. You can actually take some dice away, you can add a die, but it will randomly land on a number. So that's just a fun little tool. And when I first started using this, I could not figure out how to make the dice go away. If you want them to go away, you'll click on the tools again and then click Hide Dice. This is a compass, so you can draw circles or have students draw circles this way. Math will allow you to add some equations in. The pointer is great if you are teaching live and you want your students to focus in on a certain area. This is just going to allow your mouse to highlight different parts. The student signal, this is going to work so that students can raise their hand. You've got a calculator that students can use. Tile Factory is just going to allow you to add tiles in that students can use. The Table Factory will allow you to create a table. These are probably going to be the tools that you're going to use the most, but you can see there are a ton of tools here. There's actually a lot more tools here than what are available inside of Google Jamboard. So this is a great way, I find, particularly for math, to get students solving problems and showing their work, and you can watch them to see how they're solving problems. Now, a couple of other things here. You can upload a file such as a PDF. I'm going to show you how to do that in a couple minutes. You can also upload images or any type of files that you have on your computer. This is your drawing tool. Like I said, if I need this a little bit smaller, I can just come over here and I can draw that way. This is the eraser. We've got a text box tool to use that. You're going to click on it and then click anywhere on the board, and you can start typing. And those are pretty much all of the tools that you are going to use. So I'm going to clear this board out. We've still got a little bit there. So like I said, just click refresh, and then whatever's left over that didn't clear out should disappear. Like I said, that seems to be the one glitch with this program, and hopefully it's something that they'll fix. But I want to show you how you can upload a PDF to this and make it interactive. So let's go back to managing my boards, and I have Math SOL 4.2 fractions, and I have actually already uploaded a PDF here that's a comparing fractions worksheet. So all I did to do that was I clicked on upload file, and then I just found this PDF on my computer and I uploaded it here. You'll see that there's multiple pages, so students can scroll through the pages at the bottom and interact with it. And what I love about this is whenever you upload your PDF, it still leaves this blank space over here where students can work. So since this is a fraction worksheet, I can actually use those fraction strips, or students could use the fraction strips to find their answers. So first we have 1/4 and 3/4. So students could find the fourth fraction strip. There's 1, and then they need 3 more. So there's 1, 2, 3, and they could compare their fractions that way. Now, one thing I do want to tell you, your students will have access to these manipulatives that they can just pull them up themselves. But if you want to put the manipulatives there for students to interact with, please keep in mind that anything you add to your board, whether it's a manipulative, whether you draw a shape, whether you add text, anything that you add to the board in Teacher View is locked. The only way that you can enable students to be able to move it is you have to click select, click on the shape, and then you want to find students can move. If you do not do that for each of these will be locked and students will not be able to move them on their end. So make sure to go through and do this. Now, with making your worksheets interactive, for example, let's say we want them to type in the definitions. Remember, students can just click the text on their end, click where they want to start typing, and type the response. And then remember, they can move and resize things. So if this text were too big, they can make it smaller to fit in. Same thing, they could use the text box to add their greater than, less than signs for each of these. But this is how they can use the manipulatives and respond to worksheets at the same time. Now, I just remembered there is one thing that I forgot to show you how to do, and that is how to animate your objects. So let's say you have these fraction strips and for some reason you want to animate them. There's a couple different things you could do. Click on the select tool and then select what you want to animate, and you'll see some different options. You can have it rotate. Let's select it again and let's have it move. If you want it to move, you're going to draw a line and it is going to follow that path. So now you can see it is following that path. If you want it to stop, just hit pause animations, and then you can hit play to make it start again. If you want to get rid of the animation, you're just going to select it again. The easiest thing is just going to be to delete it, and then I can clone this and create another one rather than going through and redoing the animations again. Okay, so now that you've seen some of the different things that you can do, let's take a look at how you are going to share your board with students. What you're going to do is you're going to click on invite, and there's lots of different options. They can scan the QR code. There's a link here that you can copy, and you can paste that link in an email, in Google Classroom, in an LMS, on a website. You can share that link anywhere. The other option is to copy this code, and then what students can do is they can go to Whiteboard.Chat. They're going to click Start Drawing, and then there's a place where it says Enter Classroom Code. They can just paste that in there and then join the class. And so now you can see that they have access to this board. Now let's find the page that I was working on. And also, these are my math interactive notes. I actually have them linked in the description for this video if you would like to be able to download that resource. So here's the page that I was working on in Teacher View, and you can see that everything that I added to this is here. And what I want you to notice, students are just like you, they have to click select before they can move anything. But remember, I had changed the settings on these so that students can move it. If we come over here, I did not change the settings on the text, so they're not able to move it, but they can click on it and they can have it read aloud to them, which is really cool. So most of the student features are going to be exactly the same as you have on your board. Now, the last thing I want to show you is I'm going to go back to teacher view. This was my board, and I want to show you how to use this polling option because it's a really, really cool tool. So I'm going to click on new poll, and I'm going to click all of the students that I would like to send this poll to. Now, it's going to give you an example up here where it shows you how you need to type the question. You must type it exactly like this. So I'm going to click on action, and it actually gives you a couple things that you can send to your students. You can send them a link. So maybe you don't want them to have access to a link to another website until a certain point in the lesson. You can send them the link at any time. You can send them a poll, or you can do a voting simulation. So we're going to do a poll. What fraction is greater than 1/2? Okay, so I'm going to type it with a question mark at the end, space. I'm going to type my first answer, 1/4, and I'm going to put a comma and another space after my answer. A comma and another space after my answer. It's very important so that it sets up properly. And then when I'm done, I'm going to hit send. Now you can see here that it will list all of the students who are on this board right now, and it will show me that it has sent them the poll. So let's go back to student view, and you'll see this poll is now on their board. So they're going to click what they think the response is, and after they do, it's going to disappear. So if we go back to the teacher view, we can now see that that student is done answering, and we can see what their response is. So it would do this for all of the students, so we can see when all of the students are done, we can see how they responded. So if we see that most of the students are not answering correctly, this is probably a good area for going back and reteaching. Now this is very helpful. It will keep, once you've sent out at least one poll, this will appear at the top, and anytime you click on it, it will show all of the polls that you've done and your student responses. If you want to get rid of it at any time, you're just going to click clear all. Now these are some of the best tools and functions. The only other thing that I want to show you is, like I said before, when you send out the link for a board to your students, each of your students is getting a unique board. So for example, if my student had typed this in on their end, it's only going to show up on their board. It's not going to show up on mine. It's not going to show up on the other students. So I can view how all of the students are working by clicking that grid view down here. So now I can see here's my board, here's student 1. If I had other students, it would show me theirs, and I can click on their board to see exactly what's up here. So if I have a math problem, all the kids are solving it, I can click on different boards and see what they have and what they're doing. And I can also join their board. So if they need a little bit of extra help, I can join them and we can work collaboratively on a board as well. So that's one thing that you can do with this also, is collaborate together. So if I want to go back to just my view, just click single view. But these, I think, are going to be some of the most helpful tools that you'll be using inside of Whiteboard.Chat as a teacher. So there you have it. Those are some of the most important tools and features for Whiteboard.Chat. These are the ones that you'll probably use the most. I do recommend that you take some time playing with it because there are so many tools and features that it can take a while to get used to them. And there's also some additional ones on there that I didn't even have time to go over. So definitely check this out, especially if you are teaching remotely right now. I think it's something that you and your students will really enjoy using. And I want to wrap this video up. Since I talked about Google Jamboard in the beginning, I thought I'd wrap it up real quick by giving you a comparison of the two. So if you're trying to decide, should I use Whiteboard.Chat or should I use Google Jamboard, which one's best for me? So let's talk about Whiteboard.Chat for a second. Whiteboard.Chat has so many tools and features. which means there's a lot more uses for it and a lot of ways that you can use it to interact with your students and share content with them. The problem is, because there's so many tools and features, it's going to take a lot longer for you and your students to figure out how to use. I've also noticed, as I mentioned in the video, that Whiteboard.Chat can be a little glitchy at times. Sometimes it doesn't always refresh. So those are some things to keep in mind about Whiteboard.Chat. And now let's go ahead and talk about Google Jamboard. On the other hand, Google Jamboard is much simpler. It doesn't have as many tools and functions. So there aren't going to be quite as many things that you can do with your students using that platform, but that means that it's going to be very easy for you and your students to use. I think if you don't have a lot of time, this is a platform that you can learn very quickly, and your students can learn it very quickly too. I've also noticed that Google Jamboard seems to refresh much quicker, and it doesn't have as many glitches to it. So those are some things to keep in mind when you're deciding between the two. I think both are great platforms, and you've just got to think about what you want to use a virtual whiteboard for and what you hope to accomplish with it when deciding which one to use. So that's all I've got for today. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. I am releasing new videos every single week, and I don't want you to miss out on any of those. So until next time, happy teaching!